Welcome back to Allie J Live. I am Allie J, and this was going to be a hopefully upbeat, happy little message here. Just a short, brief, blurb that I was going to do saying Happy Thanksgiving and just, all the stuffing and turkey and gravy and mashed potatoes and all the different things that go along with that. But I don't know, my heart's just been a little heavy lately. Well, first hearing the news that Sarah Beckstrom, the lady from the National Guard who was 20 years old, did not survive and has since passed away. I'm sure that most of you have heard that news by now, but yeah, so that's just been kind of weighing heavy on me. I don't know, there's just something different about it's a tragedy when any soldier is killed in combat or in an accident or anybody dies in any circumstance, whether it's an accident or some sort of tragedy. But I think this just hits a little harder because of the circumstances surrounding it. We have, the cry is always the same. The cry is always the same that, whenever there's a shooting of some sort in any kind of public square, whether it's a school or a college or any setting or public setting or just a random act, it's always the same from one particular side. It was a senseless shooting. And in this case, it was senseless to us, but to a certain group of people, this was not a senseless shooting. I mean, to a certain group of people, this was, in a sense, an act of, if the reports are correct, that the shooter, yelled the typical thing of someone who thinks they are doing something good for their cause. It hits a little different because this is happening right here. This happened right here on our own soil. And this was supposed to be a day of Thanksgiving, which it still is. It still is. Don't get me wrong. I am very thankful for my family, for all of my friends, my coworkers, and everyone who has supported me over the years through my medical journey, my college journey, my just everything that I have gone through. And I want to thank everyone who has supported me through all these different journeys throughout my life. But it hits different when something like this happens here on our own turf, if you want to say. It's our home turf. We have not had a serious, I mean, this isn't, if you want to compare terrorist attacks, I mean, like 9/11 was one of the biggest in our history as a nation. And then we've had some other terrorist attacks happen over the years, whether you want to, the Boston bomber, the ones that were thwarted by Homeland Security or by the FBI or whoever else that was involved in thwarting some of these other planned attacks. But this kind of attack is not something, and I agree with, I believe it was Pam Bondi said, we do not want this to become a normal thing in America. This should not become a normal thing in America. So I'm just, coming on to kind of reiterate some of the things that are being said and some of the things that have been expressed by our government officials, whether it be Pete Hegseth or Pam Bondi or Donald Trump himself. I can't imagine the family going through like something like this on Thanksgiving Day. Her and this gentleman, the young man that was also injured in this attack, they volunteered to work yesterday so that they could be home with their families for Thanksgiving. Let that sink in. I mean, you never know what's going to happen from day to day. And the unexpected can happen at any time. And we never know from one day to the next. That's why it's important to know where you are going to spend eternity. Because things like this happen. But in the grand scheme of things, from a political standpoint, we have to look at the bigger picture. Do I think that every single Afghan illegal is a terrorist? No, I don't believe that for a second. I don't want people coming out and making false claims that just because we want people to be vetted more before they are brought into this country does not, and I know Donald Trump's been accused of this, of being racist, of being all these different things, but we need to make sure that we're not letting people come in who are, illegally, because laws changed over the years and how the process is of people becoming citizens and getting green cards and all these different things. And it is biblical. You can read through, I know this is the Old Testament we're talking about, but there is biblical stance on protecting your nation. God commanded, God gave instructions on how to protect their cities and their nations. So why is it any different today? Why is it that the United States is looked at from a different perspective than every other nation? If you were to go to another nation, if you were to go to another country and go in there illegally without proper visas or passport or things like that, and you got caught, you'd be deported. It's plain and simple. That is how our laws are set up nowadays. Every country has their own set of laws. And they need to be upheld in order to maintain a level of control over, otherwise you will have mass chaos. I know I said this yesterday in my podcasts. You will have mass chaos if there is not some sort of rule of order or rule of thumb, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I guess this whole situation is just hard to talk about. She was only 20 years old. I mean, yes. Did she sign up for the National Guard? Did she know that going to war was a possibility when she signed up? Absolutely. Because when you sign up, you have no idea where you're going to go. You have no idea where they might send you. But to think you are guarding the capital of your home country, and this happens on our own soil in our own capital. If that doesn't hit home for people in the United States, people who are just mad at Trump for everything that he does, then maybe we need to reevaluate. Maybe we need to reevaluate what our priorities are. Because I guess if you want this stuff to just continue happening, it's kind of like the idea of mass shootings. You know, like I was saying in the very beginning, the cry is always that we need more gun control. We need more gun control. We need more laws. We need more this. We need more that. But then when something like this happens, what do you hear from the people who were just crying about gun control and gun laws? You hear nothing except for excuses. And now they're trying to blame Trump for this because of doing deportations. This is exactly why Trump is deporting people. Because of things like this. And you may say, oh, it's very rare. It's very rare. But it's very rare for school shootings to happen. I mean, I know some people are going to try and fact check me on that. But as far as the amount of students in a school that have been actually physically, injured from someone bringing a gun to school is in the grand scheme of our country is very rare. And I was reading some statistics one time, or I was reading about, the statistics of school shootings. The reason there are so many listed is because anytime someone pulls a gun at a school, whether they shot anybody or not, it gets reported as a school shooting. You can correct me on that if I'm wrong, if you have data to show that I'm wrong on that, but that is what I had heard in a report. And so that is why there are so many reported school shootings, and that's why they use that as a means of, look at how many school shootings there are. I mean, nobody may have even been killed, nobody may have even been injured, but they're still considered, just because somebody pulled a gun out at a school. I mean, does that happen more often than not? I mean, I don't know. I can't say that for sure. But we're looking at this from a perspective of, we are bringing people into our country that we have no idea who they are. We have no idea what their background is, who they're affiliated with, whether they're affiliated with terrorist groups, terrorist organizations, or things like that. And I know a lot of people are going to try and blame Trump for this, and they're already doing it. But I just ask people to look inside their heart and look at the family that is dealing with this loss on Thanksgiving Day for something that should have never happened. And I get tired of the excuses of, well, there was a discussion on my Facebook post about it. If you want to call it a debate or an argument, whatever you want to call it. And it's amazing how people like to make excuses for stuff like this when it happens, because it goes against everything that they stand for when something like this happens. And if something like this happens and they have they have to come up with some kind of quip, some kind of like quick thinking to try and back up their stance. And it's sad. It's sad in reality, because it's like, if I stand for something and I see something that ends up being wrong with that stance, I'm going to speak out against it. But standing for a free country is not wrong. Last night when I was doing my podcast, we were talking about, I read the scripture verse of the famous passage that a lot of people like to read. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, that passage that I read last night. And the famous thing now is that the United States is not a Christian nation. That's the famous saying from a lot of people, mostly from people who say they're Christians but kind of are progressive in their thinking, and that we are not a Christian nation. And even from some, if you want to say, ultra conservative people, they say we are not a Christian nation. And it's looking more and more like that's becoming true. We were founded upon Christian principles. We were founded upon the basis of biblical morality. And that is what we were founded upon. I liked what Glenn Beck had to say when he said, if we are no longer a melting pot. The United States was known for being a melting pot. And we are no longer a melting pot if the people that are coming in are not willing to melt. A melting pot is the idea that when a group of people come together, they kind of start to form a bond. And that bond is being an American. It's not trying to turn, it's taking the American way of life, the principles that this country was founded upon, and adapting if you want to say, adapting to that. Our country we are a capitalist country, but people want to change that. They're coming in and they're wanting to change that. No, we want to be socialist. I'm sorry, but if you want to be socialist, go off and live in a socialist country. That's just the plainness of it. Yes, do we have some socialistic things happening here in America? Medicare, Social Security, a lot of these different government programs. You have your state programs. Yes, we have a lot of socialistic things going on in America, and look what it is doing to our country. Look the direction that our healthcare system is headed. Look at the direction that our economics are headed because of these programs. I know I've talked about this before. The idea of Medicare was I believe it was Lyndon B. Johnson. The idea was, to provide universal health care. Well, the people did not want to adopt it on a full-scale basis. The people were against it. So he thought, he had this idea, what we're going to do is we're just going to slowly push our way in. And eventually, so we'll start with the elderly, the disabled, and the children. And that was the whole idea behind Medicare and Medicaid, was to start with if you want to say, the minority groups, the elderly, the disabled, and then it eventually went on to children. And it just did not work out the way they planned it to, because they thought, well, it'll eventually fizzle into the whole entire country and will eventually become universal health care. Well, that ended up not happening because people pushed back against it. People didn't want it. And, that was the end of it. And it just kind of stayed stagnant where it was at. But the problem with it was the hospitals and the healthcare facilities and the healthcare groups started feeding off of that, the government, because they knew they were getting basically free money from the government. Not free because it was coming from taxpayer dollars, but they knew they were getting money from the government instead of the people. So they thought, well, we're going to start raising our prices. We're going to start raising our prices, and we're going to try to get as much money out of the government as we can. And look where it has led today. It eventually trickled into the private sector, and then the privatized companies had to start raising their rates because the hospitals started jacking their prices up for care and for services, and it just started to spiral. And then you had Obamacare come in, created this marketplace. It was bad enough with just having Medicare and Medicaid, and then you introduce something like a marketplace where it's government subsidized healthcare. So then the insurance companies start jacking their prices up even more, and the rest is history. And now these subsidies are starting to expire that the Obamacare had put in place, because when they make a law like this, they can only make it last so long, and then they have to renew it. So basically what's happening is it's time to renew. It's time that it's expiring. And so now people are panicking because they don't know what to do, because now their healthcare prices are going to skyrocket because that government subsidy is gone. And that is exactly what socialism does. So I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, kind of got off topic a little bit, but it's kind of getting back to the point of why what happened yesterday is important and needs to be addressed, is because our country is headed down a slippery slope. It has been heading down a slippery slope for a long time. And this is just another indication of, what happens when you don't have a balanced government. You need to have a balanced government. You need to have control of your country. You need to maintain a level of control, but you also need to maintain that level of freedom, because when one starts to outweigh the other, then that's when problems start to happen. And our founding fathers had it, it wasn't perfect. There was still slavery and all those other things that were going on in our country, and over time that eventually started to disappear after the Civil War and different things. But I'm not a history buff when it comes to the reasonings behind the Civil War, but I do think that each side had valid reasons for fighting that war. I'm totally against slavery, because I don't think that, that's a whole other topic we can talk about another time, because there are a lot of misconceptions and lies about slavery and about how America got into slavery. So that's another topic for another day we can discuss. But as for tonight, I just wanted to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, and I hope you all had a wonderful day. I know we had a great time with some my family, and it was a decent day overall. And the news of what was going on, just kind of following the news of what happened yesterday, just kind of made things a little somber throughout the day. But and just trying to catch up on sleep from working and late mornings, early mornings the last couple of days. I went to Philadelphia on Monday, so I was up really early to do that, and then that was a whole full day because I ended up getting back in time to be able to go back and drive my bus, and so that just turned into a whole day. And so just been catching up on sleep and different things like that. And I just want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you had a wonderful day, and stay tuned. We'll be back again another day here. Hopefully, either not sure if it'll be Sunday or Monday, but one of these days we'll be back, and hopefully I'll have a guest on with me next time. And happy Thanksgiving. Keep the Beckstrom family in your prayers, and also the family of the young man that was injured as well, that was shot yesterday. I don't mean to make this a downer kind of podcast, but it's kind of a hard day for our country. So keep fighting the good fight, and keep up the faith, and may God bless you for the rest of your Thanksgiving, what's left of it. And I'll see you next time. I'm Allie J. Have a wonderful night.